Good afternoon. My name's Anita Fletcher, and welcome to the third part of the three-part series, Elevate Your Career, that I've been running this week. Being Friday afternoon, it seems that those people who have registered are busy doing other things. So now I know that Friday afternoon's not the most ideal time to host a webinar. But I hope that you'll find the recording helpful and also the recordings from the other sessions this week. So I'm going to keep moving through the introductions and then get into the presentation. So for those of you who don't know me, I've been working in this field for 10 years now, having established standout medical careers in 2020. And prior to that, I was working as the careers service manager for the AMA, New South Wales, and then federal AMA. So I've worked with a lot of doctors over all different stages of their careers and in many different specialty fields. And I've also encountered situations with them that I've assisted them to navigate their ways through that. The most obvious ones are usually around career planning and fixing up their CVs and interview training, but I also offer coaching in communication skills for other situations within their professional lives, coaching through difficult periods for whatever reason. They've got a number of different jobs that they're juggling, or one particular role requires them to really strategically think out the way forward for that position. So I've worked with some of my clients to help them through those types of situations as well. And as I said, 5 years now working at standalone from Sydney as managing standout medical careers. So I'm very pleased to have a partnership with the MIGA, one of the 4 medical indemnity providers in Australia. And as part of that partnership, I offer a discount to MIGA members, and MIGA, the team there, and I run a webinar series each year for medical students and for doctors who are doctors in training prior to applying for specialty training. So if you or somebody you know might benefit from those, please have a look at the MIGA website for the details, and you've probably already received some emails promoting those 4 sessions. So hope to see some of you there, or some of the people nearest and dearest to you. Okay, so this week we covered a range of topics because I really wanted to give a little birthday gift to everybody and cover some very important topics that I believe are really key parts of developing your medical career. So first of all, we're really focused on branding, being able to identify your value and then communicate that to other people in various formats. On Wednesday night, we explored networking and also the use of LinkedIn. And today, and we talked about portfolio careers. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about the importance of recognizing how to persuade and influence people in different ways, and 5 techniques for doing that, which I think might be helpful. And also having a look at some career planning. And if anybody would like a career planning framework, please get in touch with me and I will send that to you. Okay, so these are the key topics that I really have been honing in on. All of those topics, I'm trying to help you in these ways to clarify your expertise, communicate your value to other people in various situations, be that at interview or other settings where you're trying to make inroads and progress further through your career, or simply to inform people about what it is that you're doing. Networking with confidence, and then really succeeding in career-defining opportunities that come your way when the sort of stakes are high, or you've got a very particular role that you're very endeared to, and that is very important to you. So I asked the question the other evening, what is it for you? What is the reason that brings you to this series? So are you doing any of the things listed on this slide? And often it's also a combination of these things that people want to then come and have a talk to me about. With many doctors keen to develop their leadership skills, I thought it would be worth spending some time looking at persuasion and influence today, and the roles that those skills can play in your career. And as I said, planning to take action. And on Wednesday, I shared the image here on this slide. And with this series, it's really been my intention to provide you with some tools and guidance to assist you with your efforts to self-reflect, explore, and plan for transitions to new roles or areas of interest. So in order to assist you to do that, I've sent out these workbooks to people who had registered for the event. If you didn't register and you're watching this subsequently, please get in touch with me and I'll be happy to send that to you. And, you know, I really recommend taking these sort of fundamental principles every now and again in your career to really reflect on what's important to you, what's changed, reset some goals, and then formulate a plan to move forward to achieve those particular goals. Okay, so when somebody asks you what you want for your career, what are you going to say? That was really the theme of our first session on Tuesday evening. So please feel free to avail yourselves of the recording if you missed it, and really consider what is it that you want. And actually, on the way here today, I stepped out for a while and was in the car a little while ago, and I happened to hear a conversation, a podcast with on the Conversation show on the ABC, and they were actually interviewing a GP who realised at the age of 60 that he wasn't burnt out in his professional life, but he was experiencing post-traumatic stress as the result of a lot of things going on for him professionally, but also as part of his personal life, things that have kind of snuck up on him that he hadn't realised were an issue. So, you know, I think that was quite interesting timing because, you know, he really didn't know anything was going on for him until a few specific things happened. And he spoke to one of his GP colleagues who said, it's time, you're done now. It's time for you to go and do something else. So I didn't hear the end of that podcast, but I will be going back and listening to the full thing. And really interested in the ending to see what it is that he moved on to pursue post-clinical practice. And he had said that he had a mix of different roles throughout his career, clinical and education. And that's obviously very common for a lot of doctors. And indeed, we talked about portfolio careers the other evening. And, you know, I really recommend that, you know, you explore those other areas of interest for you for reasons such as that. You know, you can't always count on the fact that what you've always been doing for a long time in your career is what you're going to continue to do into the future. So clearly I'm a big fan of career planning, and you know, as I said, I work with a lot of different people, and some of those are in positions, formal leadership positions. Others are working as clinicians, and an aspect, of course, of being a clinician is to develop leadership skills. So that's why I've decided to include this a few slides on this topic during this presentation today. So let's move on now to this topic. In the ever-evolving healthcare landscape, people's ability to persuade and influence others is a really critical skill for professionals who are seeking to drive positive change and navigate complex systems and achieve their career goals. So I was speaking with somebody the other day, and I'm going to refer to her as a sort of case study during the course of these slides, because I think that conversation really puts some of these theories to the test here, and I hope that these slides will assist you as well. So I do a lot of work with doctors in the context of interview preparation and performance. And as I mentioned, also navigating challenging career situations. And in each of these, persuasion and influence need to be utilised. So just as they can be utilised in other contexts, ranging from seeking buy-in for special projects, such as establishing a new clinic, or health service, to securing funding for philanthropic organisations or venture capitalists. So here we're going to look at 5 techniques that leaders in the healthcare sector can employ to enhance their influence and make a lasting impact. And as I prepared this presentation, I reflected on the ways that I've utilised these techniques as well during my career, and particularly during the past 10 years that I've been coaching doctors. So before we get on to the 5 techniques, I really wanted to share this quote. It resonated with me very much, and I think it's relevant to these topics that we've been discussing this week. As career development is a lot about developing confidence and improving our capabilities for working with others. And as I mentioned, I recently had a session with a client whom I first met in 2019 when I was back at the AMA. And she told me that one aspect of her role as a general surgeon, which she's now been successful in achieving that goal that she had set for herself quite some time ago, is her leadership role. And she really clearly and elegantly articulated what it is she enjoys about leadership. And she said to me a few days ago, the leadership role, showing and teaching juniors in theatre, scans, managing pathology, surgical techniques, and regular teaching sessions to registrars, JMOs, and students, in general, paying it forward. Another aspect of her work that she strives to do well is, and I quote, encourage effective and efficient communication, operating with respect for a harmonised working environment, leading by example to improve. So I think they're great examples of how leadership can occur within clinical teams. And, you know, what her comments to me really brought home the other day was that, you know, leadership doesn't have to be in the form of some large gestures or enormous projects. It's occurring all the time within your clinical teams, and it really happens when there's a desire to achieve effective practices within a positive culture and to build a positive culture. And that's what really came across from our conversation the other day. So I hope you get something out of this quote, because to me, especially that last line about empowering others to do their work is very pertinent, I think, to leadership, and it's something that we can lose sight of at times. So I thought that it would be useful to share this table about showing competencies of influence and persuasion, and how those two competencies differ. And as indicated in this quote, these are both about changing others' mindsets in a positive way. So, you know, there are distinctions between the two, and I think that they're both very important parts of skills that you can develop throughout your career and utilize those in various settings. So, as I said, there are 5 techniques here that I'm covering today to develop competency in influence and persuasion. The first being credibility. So, no doubt you'll all be familiar with the ways you and others around you do this. And demonstrating expertise is about consistently delivering high quality work, keeping updated on industry trends, and showcasing your knowledge through presentations, publications, or certifications to establish credibility within your field. Of course, integrity is vital for nurturing trust. It's about acting with honesty, transparency, and ethical behaviour, reinforcing your credibility as a leader that's worth following. And very public examples of loss of integrity can be found regularly in media coverage of politicians, sports people, celebrities, to name just a few. I see integrity as the cornerstone of one's reputation, and we touched on this the other evening. So it's always good to take care of your integrity and your reputation. Talk to others about the way that other people perceive you as well, to make sure that those two things line up, your self-perception and others around you. And the third is about showing reliability. Being reliable really builds confidence. So commit to your promises, meet deadlines, deliver on your commitments, showcasing reliability as a professional. And it's really difficult to persuade or influence others without these 3 components of your professional self. And I talk about these because when you're applying for roles, when you're interviewing, in your day-to-day work, in order for people to assess your performance, you need to aim for the highest standards of professionalism. And I think it's helpful sometimes to really break down what some of those aspects are. So this technique relates to Tuesday evening's session about communicating your value proposition. And I spoke about tailoring the messages around what you can offer to others according to the setting where the opportunities for sharing information arises. So you might like to go back and watch through that session. So to understand your audience, you need to do these 3 things up on the screen. So the first one involves effective persuasion, which starts with a deep understanding of your audience's needs, preferences, and motivations. So take the time to empathise with their perspectives, their concerns, and desired outcomes. And this will enable you to tailor your message and frame your arguments in a way that resonates with them and addresses their specific challenges. Obviously, different individuals and groups respond better to different communication styles. So now to point 2. So observe your audience's communication preferences and adjust your approach accordingly. And if these are all things that you already do, this is a sort of great content to talk about when you are in interviews, when people are asking what your style of work is, or even if they're not directly asking, they're interested in knowing how is it that you work with other people and achieve success together. So, you know, changing our communication style can involve using more formal or informal language, emphasizing logic or emotion, or tailoring the level of detail to suit their needs. And most of you have had at least some experience doing this throughout your career. And I think a great example of how many doctors had to adapt their communication style was during COVID, when they suddenly found themselves in the role of spokesperson for their organisation and specialty. And you know, everybody's roles changed very quickly and everybody had to adapt. So the context in which they were working changed, and the way that they communicated was very different to the ways that they had been familiar with up until that point. So some found themselves hosting enormous meetings over Zoom, standing in front of the media at press conferences, delivering messages to many people in the public arena. And that's where media training can become extremely useful as well. But overall, people had to adapt their communications style due to the other restrictions caused by COVID. So we've already touched on the fact that establishing a genuine connection with your audience is crucial for effective persuasion. So take the time to build a rapport, listen actively, and demonstrate your understanding of other people's perspectives. And by fostering rapport and trust, you can create an environment where your ideas are more likely to be heard and considered. And some of my past clients are really masters of these particular skills. So, fourth point, the power of social proof, leveraging influential endorsements. So, social proof helps you to demonstrate to others how your views and ideas have merit and are worthy of consideration and merit. So some of the ways that you can do those social proof activities are listed there, and I'll briefly go through. Highlighting successful implementations can include providing compelling examples of how others have successfully implemented your ideas or solutions. So share case studies, testimonials, or success stories that showcase the tangible benefits and real-world impact of your proposals. So the other evening we talked about LinkedIn, and LinkedIn is a great example of where people are doing that type of work. And another recent experience with a client involved her applying for a fellowship role overseas. And you know, we talked about the information that she really wanted to highlight to that interview panel. And, you know, I asked her to choose two of her greatest achievements. And one of them was an enormous impact and result out of a clinical trial that she ran. So that served as a fantastic example for that particular interview. So obviously, not everybody changes products out on the market through their research, but whatever it is that you've done that's helped move things forward, you know, and you've introduced new ways of doing things in your, it could be in your team or in your, you know, broader department or hospital or even further afield, you know, use those examples to show people what you're able to achieve. Gaining endorsements from respected figures can be is obviously very important, especially when it comes to applying for roles in medicine, where the word of the referees is often a very influential part of the application of the recruitment process. So, you know, foster relationships with people. We spoke about this the other night as well, and really get people's support, essentially. And that's where, again, LinkedIn can be a really useful tool, because other people can see on your profile that other peers and medical professionals are supportive of the information that you're putting out and the work that you're doing. Okay, peer-to-peer validation. So obviously made some notes on this presentation quite some time ago, and that's all about harnessing the power of social proof by showcasing how your peers or colleagues have embraced and benefited from your ideas. So emphasize the shared experiences and common challenges that your audience can relate to as well. And this will further reinforce the validity of your proposals. And finally, leveraging data and statistics. You can always supplement your arguments with credible data, research findings, and relevant statistics. And this area is one where I encourage people to use data or figures and results, really express those results in a very clear and concrete way in your CV when you're talking about different achievements and wanting to influence people to invite you for an interview for an important role that's coming up. Including results, very specific results, for example, amounts of funds that you've been able to raise for research, are pretty compelling pieces of information that should be included on your CV. Okay, what's coming up next? So to captivate your audience, there are different communication techniques that you can use, and there are 3 of them. There's mention there of the blog on the Standout Medical Careers website. You can refer to that. There's a whole lot of different articles there that I've written over the course of the past few years, and there's certainly 1 or 2 on communication skills. So storytelling, people might think, what do you mean by that? And I actually commonly hear people, doctors talking about how they've been advised to tell their story in an interview, and I agree that that's a really effective interview tool. So by telling your story, you can illustrate your ideas, humanize your message. So essentially, that's what an interview is all about, is enabling the recruiters to meet you and see how you are as a person, what you're like. And this also enables you to create an emotional connection with the people who are listening to you. So I'm not going to delve into that any further, but I'm sure you can draw from that what I mean. Analogies and metaphors. So these can help your audience better understand complex concepts and visualize the potential impact of your proposals. And persuasive language is about carefully selecting the language that you want to use to enhance the effectiveness of your communication. And I'm a big one here when it comes to, I'm very keen on elevating people's language in their application documents and including their CVs, and also in their interview responses. So in each of those activities that you need to carry out, you've got the opportunity to really craft the messages that you want to convey and choose your words very carefully. So really have a think about the types of words that you're using, and that doesn't, people often say, oh, I want to make sure I know what the buzzwords are. And sure, there are words that come up as buzzwords, various times. And it's important to know, buzzwords can give it perhaps a negative connotation. It's really one of the ways to elevate your language is to reflect the language that's being used by the people that you're going to be speaking with. So knowing the things that are important to the colleges and to the workplaces that you're seeking to enter or other organisations is really important, because by reflecting their own language back to them, you're showing that you've taken enough interest to find out what is important and in their organization, and that you've understood that and you're able to also converse about those things. So really choose your language carefully in all different settings. Okay, so building relationships and networks. We talked about this the other evening a bit as well in the networking section of part of Wednesday evening's presentation. So, think about what collaborative partnerships you can build, what networks are worth you trying to introduce yourself to and break into and become a part of. And, that can involve going to networking events. I'm sure, doctors are well aware of the many conferences that are available to them and other events that are put on by the professional associations and colleges, and also industry forums. So lots of different platforms are out there that enable you to connect with a diverse range of people where you can share your expertise and establish yourself as a thought leader in your field. So that requires some effort and some work, but every aspect of your career requires that. And if you put some effort into doing that, you can have enormous benefits. If you're looking at the blog page, I've written articles on networking as well about being comfortable in that space and techniques that you can use to develop your confidence to speak to other people if you are not comfortable doing that in a big room of 500 people that you don't know. But hopefully that's a skill that you can continue to build on. And as your network grows, you can leverage your connections to access new opportunities. There's no doubt that networks are incredibly important. The connections that you make through your career, the relationships that you form, are really going to be beneficial to you throughout your career, and beneficial to the others that meet you as well. It's very much a two-way street in the relationships that we build with people. And I think that can be one of the most enjoyable aspects of our work, whatever that may be. Okay, so how to apply some persuasion techniques when you're navigating complex scenarios. So as I mentioned earlier, quite a few of my clients experience these sorts of challenges. So in terms of advocacy, whether you're a junior doctor trying to find your place in a high-pressure system or a clinician pushing the envelope to improve patient care, the ability to persuade and influence is crucial. So use these techniques to build credibility, understand your audience, and create a compelling case for change. For healthcare professionals looking to transition into new roles or explore alternative paths within the industry, effective persuasion and influence skills can be invaluable. So again, leverage that network, show your expertise, and tailor your messages to convince key stakeholders of the benefits of your new direction. And as I mentioned the other evening, letting people know what it is that you're looking for. I've put that question in here again today. If someone asks you what you want from your career, be ready to give them an answer that is going to help them to help you, or at very least inform them that you are, looking for a change and you do have other areas of interest. So, and often there are complex and sometimes politically charged situations happening in the healthcare environment. So, navigating interpersonal dynamics and power structures can be very daunting. And by honing your persuasion techniques, you can build stronger relationships, foster trust, and create win-win solutions that align with your objectives and the needs of your organization. Now, I wrote this section of the slides last year around this time, and I presented a full session on this topic. But actually, in reading that out, it reminds me of a client that I was working with. I've worked with her for over 2 6-month periods, actually, over the past few years. And a few weeks ago, she was telling me about a complex situation that arose for her in her department, whereby somebody that she works with made a very public complaint via email, not only to the department that they work in, but more broadly to the hospital executive. So you can imagine my client's surprise when she opened an email that was addressed to a great number of people that was referring to her and indeed making some pretty strong claims about her work. So she really had to navigate that very carefully. And of course, she was extremely upset by that. But she handled herself incredibly well, and worked through that situation and actually came out in a much better position than she had been before. So she had been well regarded by everybody in the department, as far as she'd been aware until this happened. And the way that the other person conducted themselves didn't really reflect very well on them. And the way that she conducted herself actually led to her gaining a lot of support from the people within her department, the executive as well, and she was commended for the way that she managed and navigated that situation. So this wasn't one that we had spoken about while it was happening. She'd quietly been dealing with this at the end of last year. But, she was able to see through our discussions as well just how it was almost a blessing in disguise, a pretty unfortunate situation and way for her to sort of gain some additional support and acknowledgement from her colleagues, but a really worthwhile learning experience. So, as I've said, and there are going to be times when things are very difficult. So it's so important to carefully think through your next moves and respond in an appropriate manner rather than reacting, which I think the person who wrote that email was reacting and probably very much regretted the way that she had the other person had sent that email in the way that she did to so many people. Okay, so in summary, to excel in your career, acquiring and refining these influencing and persuading techniques is vital. And the ability to engage, inspire, and influence others is pivotal in leadership roles and collaborative environments within the healthcare sector. So I hope you'll embrace these techniques to enhance your career effectiveness and leadership influence. So expertise obviously involves continuously developing your knowledge and skills to establish credibility and become a respected authority in your field. Empathy is when we cultivate a deep understanding of your audience's needs, concerns, and perspectives to tailor your approach effectively. And when I say audience, I obviously mean the people around you who are listening to you. And that can include patients, their families, your colleagues, who we don't really normally consider as an audience, but they're within your realm of communication. I've covered off, we talked about social proof, really think about those success stories and communicate those to other people, share what works, and share how you have ideas for potentially implementing further improvements in your current and future positions. So keep working on your communication skills and expand into new areas where you can communicate your vision and ideas to a wider and broader group of people or audience. And as I've said, always nurture your relationships. So by mastering these 5 powerful techniques, you can become a more influential and effective leader in the healthcare sector. And I believe that investing in your persuasion and influence skills will not only help you navigate complex scenarios, but also enable you to drive meaningful change, achieve your career goals, and make a lasting impact on your organization and the patients that you serve. So I'll finish off there with this particular quote. I used to be a rower until I suffered an injury last year. So the rowing images always resonated with me very well, particularly when it comes to teamwork. I think it's worth thinking about, are we all moving in time together? And we're all different personalities and bring different skills to the activity that we're doing, and good leadership, and really centers around being able to communicate well with other people. Think about how the ideas you want to bring others along into, and recognizing everybody's skills and talents that they bring. Okay, so that concludes the slides on the persuasion and influence part of this presentation. And next, I'll spend a little bit of time, not long really, talking about what your plan is. So are you taking a strategic approach to managing your career? If you think that you can do some more work on that, please refer to the workbook that I mentioned earlier and that I've emailed out to people who registered. And again, if you haven't received that, please send me an email and I'll be happy to send that to you. And in addition, I'm also happy to share a career planning framework with people who are watching this recording today or in the future. And I hope that that's helpful. I was speaking yesterday to an endocrinologist who's starting to think about where her career might take her. And I was feeling generous, and I, wanted to help her out. So I sent her that plan as well, and I've been told that it is extremely helpful, including by the person who provided this lovely testimonial a few years ago. And it is one of the people that's come back, and I'm very happy to say we're working together again now over another 6-month period. So, one of the highlights of the time that I worked with her a few years ago was that she had put in her mind that the goals that she had for her career were very much, they're down the track things. And I questioned her about that and asked her why are they things that you would not feel confident about pursuing now? And she reflected on that, and then she realized that actually she was the only reason why she could not be pursuing those various goals. And I was very pleased that in the course of that 6 months, she achieved 4 of the 6 goals that then she had set out for herself. And yeah, now we're working on a whole different set of goals, and working together to further gain great experiences, for her to gain fantastic experiences throughout her career, which she's thoroughly enjoying. So that really is the reason I'm here, to help people achieve those sorts of outcomes. There's a banner that I use on the bottom of my newsletters and LinkedIn posts and articles, fulfillment, career fulfillment in medicine and beyond. And that's what really drives me, helping people find what it is that's going to give them a more fulfilling time in their work lives, and that often spills out into the rest of their lives as well. So that's what we're aiming for here with this work on career development. So as I've mentioned previously, I provide career coaching for doctors in a range of ways to gain clarity on what career fulfilment looks like to them, create unforgettable and compelling value propositions that position them as the ideal candidate. I've had a few very happy clients this week who have been working with me to redo their CVs, refresh their CVs and their application documents for very competitive consultant positions. So great to see them really happy with the results of what the documents that they're about to submit. I work with people, as I've said, to navigate challenging professional situations and, most very importantly, help people win those ideal roles, the roles that they've had their sights set on and their heart set on for many years, often. And we work together to develop an approach and the skills that they need to keep building in order to attain those dream roles into the future. So if I can help you in any way, please don't hesitate to get in touch with me. My email address is there. Chances are I've sent you an email already. It's not hard to find on my website, where you can also always book a free career strategy session with me. And I've mentioned before that there are blogs on the site that you can refer to, or on my LinkedIn profile. If we're not connected and you'd like to connect with me, please reach out. I'm always happy to bring people into the network and help them connect with other people in their fields of interest. And of course, you can see the recordings on the YouTube channel and some podcasts as well, with some of the wonderful people that have been kind enough to come on the podcast over the past few years. So thank you very much for joining. I hope that this week's sessions have been of benefit to you, and that the other materials I provide continue to be of benefit to you, and look forward to seeing you in the future, speaking with you if you have any questions or if I can help you in any way. So bye for now and all the best. Thank you.